This is a Diddy empire. This is a Diddy jail, like a prison booty bandit, literally chasing someone. And if that guy doesn't fight, Diddy wins. That's what's fucking going on. If I was appointed the lawyer of America in an international court, and I was tasked with defending the innocence of our nation, I would fail. There is nothing I could say. What's being done to Iran right now by the cowardly and disgusting U.S. Zionist forces is, well, it's very difficult to think about. Because Iran militarily has been wiping the floor with the U.S. and Israel and its proxies. But the U.S. and Israel do what they do best. They're terrorists. They just start killing civilians. Start killing women and children and innocents, poisoning their water supply, taking out hospitals, taking out civilian services and infrastructure like firefighting and so on and so on. And the idea is that this is going to instill enough terror and anguish and horror among common people, screaming, right, in agony as their children, as their relatives are burned and killed, that they will exert a sufficient amount of pressure on the heroes currently fighting in the war to lay down their arms and submit and surrender. And that's the idea behind these terrorist acts. Because contrary to what you might be thinking or what you might be hearing about or expecting, Iran actually hasn't been targeting civilians. It's been targeting civilian infrastructure in the Zionist entity and the Gulf states. And throughout the region, it's just been targeting military infrastructure and nothing else. However, I think that should change. I think enough is enough. I think that the only moral high ground is affecting a sufficient degree of deterrence so that these terrorist pieces of shit will leave you the fuck alone and think twice before so callously attacking the civil. Can you guys imagine if this happened in our country and how outraged you would be? How disgusted you would be? While a war to eliminate the defensive military capabilities of the U.S. in the Gulf has been waged, the U.S. and Israel decided to just start killing Iranian civilians. Can you think of all the screaming, terrified people in shock and horror being killed and slaughtered, and how cynical and disgusting this cowardly tactic and strategy really is? Attempting to enforce surrender, not even through military supremacy of defeating the Iranian military, but traumatizing generations to come, killing men, women, and children, elderly people, sick people, people who don't even participate in war. And the idea is that the terror and the trauma and the shock is going to mentally break the Iranian nation into submission. And I gotta say, if you're a fucking American, I mean, you gotta be fucking ashamed. I am deeply disgusted and ashamed of being an American right now. I'm not gonna lie. Because I think about all this horror and terror that we're inflicting on them. And they're on the other side of the planet. They pose no danger to us whatsoever. And we won't leave them the fuck alone. Because they have the audacity to defy and be independent from our sick, twisted, pedophile empire. Because they show the audacity of just wanting to go their own way and develop and be their own thing and be their own nation and develop in their own way and build their own nation and their own civilization. Because they have that audacity, we have to go and terrorize and slaughter their people, their civilians, their women, their children. We have to inflict upon them this terror, this horror, until they submit. If you're an American, okay, if I'm going to be on some real shit. If you're an American, if they're going to go to those lengths to goad them into submission, don't you think for a fucking second they wouldn't do the same thing to enforce your complacency and your submission? Now, if you're American, the chances are I won't claim to be morally superior. We're all pretty complacent. We're all sitting here complacently, going about our daily routines like everything's normal. But if the day would ever come that we Americans decided to break out of these routines, our stupid 9 to 5 goyim slave cattle jobs, and our mundane daily lives and routines, if we decided to break out of these and decide to defy the system that rules us, our complacency would be affected and exacted in the same way that it is being exacted upon the Iranian people. And anyone in the world, for that matter, who dares to step out of line with whatever the fucking pedophile Satanist ruling circles who rule us decide for us. And it's the lack of responsibility, honestly. It's just really disgusting. I mean, nobody's stepping up to the plate at the top, and these Silicon Valley pieces of shit, they're so cynical and calculated, right? It's all fucking game for them. Mark my fucking words. Everything happening in Iran, everything that's happening in Gaza, everything that's been happening in the world, it's going to happen here too. It's just karma. It's just the nature of karma. All that shit's going to come home. We are going to pay for everything. And we can't complain about it. We can't. When the day comes, let's not scream into the sky and curse God. When we're going to get what's coming to us as a nation. We're bringing upon ourselves some terrible, terrible karma. We're bringing upon ourselves a terrible biblical wrath that we are going to suffer as a nation. Ironically, it's going to vindicate all the apocalyptic churches, evangelical churches that talk about America's sins as a nation are going to be our downfall. Well, you know what? They are, actually. And yeah, we're going to get some fire and brimstone from God. And it's coming sooner than you think. And nobody can claim that we're innocent and we don't deserve it. No one can claim it. I'm not innocent. No one's innocent. We're all going to have to suffer through this to atone for the wickedness of this regime and this system that we all buy into and complacently. And I'm not saying there's an alternative. I'm not advocating adventurism. I'm not saying there's a way to magically and heroically change everything overnight. I would say if I wanted to be on a high horse and be a little moralistic, I would say it would help. It would help to do a little thing. It would help maybe to get organized, maybe to focus on getting organized, maybe. And I say this earnestly because some of these sick fucks that call themselves leftists, they try to say, oh, what about MAGA communism? What about MAGA communism? Right, what about MAGA communism? Because let's write off of the table you supporting us and helping us with that effort years ago. I know you couldn't stomach that. I would never have asked you of that, right? But had you just not sabotaged us in the way that you did, had you just left us alone and allowed us to build up a massive, consolidated, anti-war, anti-Zionist, and anti-intervention bulwark among the same constituency that won in 2024, maybe that would have been a step in the right direction to have exerted the right amount of fucking pressure to stop what's going on right now. Instead, now, we have Tucker Carlson, we have Thomas Massey, and we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, and God bless them, but they didn't create a movement. The MAGA communists, we wanted to create a movement, we wanted to create a party, an organization, and the whole purpose was to organize the anti-war masses that were part of MAGA at that time and consolidate an anti-war principle, an anti-intervention principle, an anti-Zionist principle. And to these leftists, we didn't even need your help. But you want to know what made it fail, honestly? It was that it was sabotaged. Endlessly. They spent endless amounts of effort to just sow confusion by dragging us through the mud, getting us bogged down in these completely fucking pointless wars and attacks. And we barely even had the opportunity to build up the organization of the masses that was necessary to have prevented this from happening. Not a single one of us thought Trump was reliable. Even, sometimes they try to share that one edit I made of like, Trump was only the beginning. Yeah, retard. Do you have the minimum of media literacy to understand? Even in 2022, when there were naive MAGA supporters that thought Trump was anti-war versus Biden, who was funding Ukraine, even then, we were still articulating it as a post-MAGA organizational principle. That MAGA was the beginning. Now we have to go to the next stage and consolidate an anti-imperialist movement on principle and actually draw out these tendencies into the light of day such that they're no longer nebulous, fleeting, ephemeral tendencies that go in and out, but become the defining principles of a new political formation in this country. And it's like that's what we were fighting for. And who sabotaged us? Liberal leftists and Democrats. And I mention this because then it would have sufficed to just fuck off. We didn't even need your help. It just would have sufficed for you to fuck off. And leave us the fuck alone, right? But that was the past. But I'm mentioning it. I'm mentioning it because even now, it's a lot to ask Americans to do anything. It's a lot to ask people to protest and boycott and do all these different kinds of things. But in the same spirit, in a way, I'd say it goes a long way to stop giving them your consent, your active enthusiasm, your active support. It goes a long way to just cease and desist from participating in their psyops. It goes a long way. Instead of sharing that fucking Instagram hashtag of free Iran, women life freedom, just shut the fuck up and eat your Cheetos and go to fucking McDonald's and be the little fucking goy cattle slave you are and keep your fucking mouth shut. Right? It goes a long fucking way to just not give this regime the consent that it needs to wage these kind of wars, meaning even the indifference of the masses would be preferable to the active lickspittles, the active cheerleading and enthusiasm they cultivate among these fucking goy cattle. It would suffice to shut the fuck up and cease and desist from paying tithes to this fucking regime through your soul, through your consciousness. It would suffice to be ignorant and just apathetic. It would be a start. Dugan is correct. He said 50% of Americans are Democrats. He said 35% are anti-war Tucker types, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, the traditional MAGA. And then he said there's a 15% who are genuine running dogs of the regime. 15% who genuinely cheerlead and support these horrific, disgusting anti-human wars that will incur upon our nation a karmic wrath, the likes of which has never before been seen in the history of mankind. And those 15%, what can you say to them? What can you say to those 15%? They're irredeemable. They're nihilists. They're irredeemable. They are lumpen, nihilist pieces of shit who have absolutely no potential to be saved or salvaged or redeemed in any kind of way. They are hyperactive on social media. They are natural-born snitches and fat asses and estrogenic subhuman pieces of shit, that 15%. And they'll get what's coming to them. Not by me. Karma's fucking real. They'll get what's coming to them. But in any case, this is where we stand now. You know, Venezuela, where they kidnapped Maduro and conquered the nation without a genocide, so many people celebrated that because they loved the humiliation of Venezuela. They loved the humiliation, the spectacle of dominance that was affected on the Venezuelan nation and the Venezuelan people. But we're witnessing something different right now. We're not witnessing the surgical humiliation of Iran by just simply killing its leader and then everything going in our favor. We're witnessing genuine torture and terrorism being affected on the Iranian people. Genuine terrorism and torture. And it served and it's a malicious, spiteful torture, by the way. It's not even simply a matter of strategic calculation. It's revenge for the humiliation that Iran effected upon the U.S. empire. And what sickens me and disgusts me the most, and I'm not trying to functionally moralize here in the sense of claim that I think there's an easy solution, but I do find it disgusting that right now in the world, Iran is alone. Why can't we be courageous like Iranians? Why can't we be like them? Why can't everyone in the world be as moral and courageous as the Iranian nation? Why do they have to stand alone and suffer this? Just like the people in Gaza. Every day I wake up ashamed that I don't have a fraction of the courage and the moral fortitude of the average and ordinary Iranian right now. I mean, who is existentially waging a battle for the bare minimum of some truth and justice in this world and dignity. By every metric and standard and right, the Iranian people have a right to self-determination. They have the right to create their own republic, their own sovereign state. They absolutely have the right to go about attending to their own affairs as a nation how they see fit. They absolutely have the right to uphold the principles, dare I call them, of international law, which of course I'm very cynical about, but those are the only multilateral principles nations have today when it comes to the injustice that's going on in the region at large. They have the right to stand up for Palestine. They have the right to stand up for Lebanon. And they have the right to stand up for themselves. And they're being punished for it. They're being punished for it. And for those monarchists and these disgusting, subhuman, filthy diasporoid scum, I saw a disgusting libtard, bread tube type leftist say something like, oh, just admit you want to deport these immigrant Iranians. Yes, I do. Yes. No. I don't simply think they should be deported, to be clear. To be clear, I don't think they should be deported, actually. If I speak further, I think I'll be crossing some red lines in terms of censorship and freedom of speech. No, not even Gulag. Honestly, not even Gulag. The people that were dancing while Iranian school children and little girls are being bombed to shreds and these fucking whores are dancing, not Gulag, not deportation, a third thing. That's what they deserve. By a sovereign, just, and legal state through a procedure of some kind. History will remember these fucking scum. They are unforgivable. There's nothing they could do to earn the forgiveness of history. These whores that were dancing in celebration as little girls, school children in Iran, are being blown up and killed and slaughtered. And they're dancing. These people aren't human. Why should we ever pretend that we have to be on the defensive when it comes to our morals? You want to know who has the moral sanction of heaven? You want to know who has the moral high ground? According to the laws of heaven, according to cosmic justice, those that will incarnate the scourge of God, those that will be beyond ruthless toward those who perpetuated these crimes. I'll run you a hypothetical. The indiscriminate bombing of the UAE and of Dubai, including civilians. If Iran were to do this, could anyone in the world say this is immoral? If Iran did the same to Tel Aviv and to so-called Israel, could anyone say this is immoral? Does everyone now understand why Genghis Khan did what he did? Why Tamerlane had to do what he did? Because there's a certain type of arrogance, a rot, that roots itself even at the levels of masses of people, not even just elites. And the only things in history that have reminded people that we can only live and die by a true cosmic justice is if we're reminded what the price of depravity and immorality and evil really is. Otherwise, this satanic and Luciferian arrogance just becomes unfettered. It grows unfettered. It knows no bounds. It becomes limitless. These fat-ass Gulf Arabs in Dubai think they are untouchable. They could not fathom the possibility of being humbled, of knowing the terror and horror that the children of Iran and Gaza before them have been facing. These Zionists in Israel could not fathom the possibility of knowing the same fear, the same anguish and suffering that's become a regular occurrence for people in Lebanon and Palestine and now Iran. People say, oh, you're a moralist, you're a moralist. You're goddamn fucking right. I'm a moralist. I'm a karmic moralist. Okay? True morality is brutality. True morality is leveling. True morality is just. We as a nation, as Americans, will not be able to muster even anything close to a moral existence until what we consider normal, what we consider a unified and integral state, apparatus, and infrastructure is gone. When that collapses, when our electrical grids start failing like they are now in Europe, when the centralized infrastructure that we get our clean drinking water from, and our electricity from, and our heat from, and our energy from, when that starts to fail on a mass scale, when law and order starts to break down the infrastructure of basic security, and when it becomes really the Wild West over here, we're going to be given the opportunity to rediscover what morality and civilization is. But for now, we're not a civilization. How can we be a fucking civilization? We're not a civilization. What are the things we actually fucking care about? I hear so much gibber about fucking celebrities the past 2 days. I've been hearing so much fucking gibber. How many people do I eavesdrop on? I don't eavesdrop, but how many people do I just hear talking about fucking nothing over the past few days? How many people actually know what we're doing in Iran? Does anyone care? Remember when Black Lives Matter happened? We seem to care about that. We seem to care about all the Somalis in Minnesota who are scamming the government. Does anyone give a fuck about this? Does anyone fucking care at all? Is it going to take some celebrity to raise awareness? These celebrities controlled by Zionist Jews in Hollywood who fucking have them on a leash and decide what they get to raise awareness about and what they don't. How many times have celebrities been raising awareness about all sorts of different humanitarian things? Not a fucking word about Gaza, though, right? Just like there's not a fucking word about what's going on in Iran. But they sure as hell were very vocal and very loud about the so-called woman life freedom movement and the so-called protests within Iran, right? And the outrage. They remember fucking retard Cornel West? Remember that retard Cornel West? Long live the Iranian Revolution. Remember that fucking retard? Remember that fucking retard gay reek Yanis Varoufakis? And what he fucking said? This is what they were actually cheerleading and promoting and advocating. There's just a certain level where it becomes unforgivable. Zoran Mamdani and the rest, they don't understand it's an existential struggle to preserve the bare fucking minimum of sovereignty. Of, no, we're not going to be your raped slave. We're going to have our own energy, our own infrastructure, and we'll go our own way. We're not going to fucking listen to you. This is a black and white struggle of a people who don't want to be the raped slaves of the Epstein Empire. It's no versus yes. It's, I'm going to stand my ground, or I'm going to fucking surrender to you. I don't give a fuck about the content of what it is. It could be anything. If Trump walks up to you and tells you have to bark like a dog, or he's going to fucking shoot you in the head, are you barking or are you going to fucking stand your ground? If some random fat ass accosts you on the street and he says, stop walking, stand in place like a little bitch you are you listening to him or are you going to throw some fucking hands? That's exactly what's fucking going on here. I don't give a shit if you're some fucking retarded whore feminist who has a fucking problem with the laws they have over there about their hijabs. I don't give a fuck about what your opinion on Islam is. I don't give a shit about what you think about their specific system. It's the principle of not being told what they have to fucking do by the U.S. empire arbitrarily and in violation of all basic principles and norms of national self-determination. Yes versus no. Black versus white. Defiance or total raped submission. There's no fucking in between. This is a Diddy empire. This is a Diddy jail, like a prison booty bandit literally chasing someone. And if that guy doesn't fight, Diddy wins. That's what's fucking going on. I hate to put it in some such blunt terms. But I can't believe these retard leftists who keep talking about, oh, but what about the nuances? Can you shut the fuck up? None of that fucking matters right now. This is black and white. It doesn't matter what system Iran has. It doesn't matter what the reason is. Even if Iran was some cringy fucking Vijay Prashad social democracy that the Tudeh party wants, as long as Iran not only refuses to comply with the West, but decides that it's going to have its own developmental strategy and its own regional vision that is distinct from the United States, it would be targeted in the exact same way as it is now. And the Iranians would be compelled to fight in the same way that they're fighting now. There's no debate about this topic. There's no debate. You either advocate for the destruction of a people's dignity, or you have the moral position, the bare minimum of one. You have solidarity with the Iranian people. By the way, what alternative are we offering them, since we want to talk about systems? Are we offering them a system of skyrocketing rents and unlimited debt and the degradation of basic and critical civilian public infrastructure, not even due to military attacks, but due to underfunding? Are we advocating for an empire of OnlyFans and prostitution on a mass scale? Just what are we advocating for exactly? What are we promoting? That's such a beautiful alternative and a utopia in comparison to the system Iranians decide that they should have. What do we even promise them except slavery and humiliation and indignity? I'm angered because I know Iran better than most people do, in the sense that I know its politics and I know its ideology better than most people do. And all the Iranians are not radical. They're not extreme. They're really not radical or extreme at all. They are very politely just insisting upon the bare minimum of what formally we claim to ourselves uphold, which is the international norm of a national right to self-determination. That's all they're upholding. And they're being scapegoated and tortured and attacked sadistically for it. And terrorized. They are nowhere near as radical as I think they deserve to be. And look how much they suffer for it. There is no revenge that the people of Iran or the people of Gaza or any of the other aggrieved people of the world could pursue that I could object to morally. If I heard that a nuke was coming our way, I would go outside, look up into the sky, and say, I guess this is it. I absolutely would have no grounds to object to it, honestly. I'd have no grounds. There's nothing, I couldn't say anything. If I was appointed the lawyer of America in an international court, and I was tasked with defending the innocence of our nation, I would fail. There is nothing I could say. I mean, what honestly could I say? And what sickens me is that I know in their heart of hearts, at least in the soul of this nation, America, I know this is not our way. I know it's not our way. I know there's so many people who are just as sickened and disgusted as I am. And maybe I'm equally outraged and disgusted by the fact that the real soul of this nation is just so fucking impotent. And we allow ourselves to be taken for a ride by these disgusting pedophiles, these anti-human scum, and their fucking prostitute lickspittles, their captive dreamers, and all these other fucking retards. These shills that they have on social media, these cheerleaders in the media that they have. You're calling for the nuclear destruction of the American people? I see. Weapons grade incompetence. I'm looking at you in the eyes right now in the camera. How does it feel to be a subhuman retard who has no literacy? An illiterate subhuman retard. The words that come out of your mouth, the things that you type in my chat with your disgusting fat Cheeto-stained fingers, at the level of sentience, cannot be distinguished from a bird shitting on a fucking car on the sidewalk. There is no difference between what you say, if you could call these words, if you could call this intelligible language, than a dog taking a piss on the street. You worthless subhuman fucking retard. Did I advocate for that, or did I say I would have no moral recourse against it? You fucking idiot. Go outside. Can I say go play in traffic? I can't say that on Kick, so I won't. But you are so worthless. You're not even sentient. You're not even a bot. Even Grok, even ChatGPT has more intelligence than you do and has more discernment than you do. So I won't insult bots by calling you a bot. I'm just going to call you a animalistic, subhuman fucking retard who lacks basic hearing skills. You know how many people I deal with every day who say stupid, retarded shit? Whether it's on my social media, whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else, literally everywhere, YouTube comments. You know how much restraint that I show by not responding? But I do have a response for each and every one of you fucking retards. And if you heard it, you would probably end your life. And good thing I'm not saying it, right? You Zionist piece of shit. Subhuman. You want to wag your finger at me? Oh, you're a communist. But literally outside traffic. You're saying this while we are exterminating and terrorizing and bombing and murdering Iranian civilians, and this is what you're fucking worried about, you piece of shit? You fat fuck Zionist, you fat ass. You're a fat, worthless piece of shit. Fucking subhuman retard. Is there a single fucking person who can defend what the U.S. and so-called Israel are doing to Iran and have been doing to Iran for decades? Can anyone be called upon to defend that and look into a camera and say, yeah, this is what I support, this is what I'm for? For all you national LARPers, you national patriotic fucking LARPers, If you were even 1% patriotic for America in any meaningful fucking sense, your position would be indistinguishable in the eyes of these evangelical fucking Zionist goy cattle slaves and Zionist Jews that rule you. In their eyes, you'd be no different than Osama bin Laden. Don't for a fucking second talk to me about pragmatism. I'm not Delcy, you bitch. I'm not Delcy, you bitch. Oh, but Haz, what about we need to do American nationalism. You think I look like fucking Delcy, you fucking retard? There's right, and then there's wrong. As chairman of the American Communist Party, of course, I believe in an alternative vision for this nation and its future. But if you think I'm going to fucking sit here and undercut the depravity and evil of this sick empire of ours, go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. There's right and there's wrong. You want to call me a fucking globalist? Don't call me a globalist. Call me a cosmist, bitch. There's right and there's wrong and there's one God. You're misunderstanding patriotism for national solipsism. As though being a patriot or a so-called nationalist gives you the fucking right and the sanction to have the morals of a fucking wild animal. No, of course I don't think everyone in the fucking world can simultaneously act with unlimited operational and logistical precision to affect what I think is right versus what's wrong. But simultaneously, those who undercut how wicked and evil our system is and who lie to the American people really and tell them and what? Throw cheap praise and how could you really care about this country if you're unwilling to be its conscience? If you're unwilling to be like Smedley Butler, right? Who committed many atrocities and crimes for the U.S. imperialist agenda, but had enough fucking moral authority in him to come to the light and admit what he did is fucking wrong and not sugarcoat it to anyone. What we're doing to Iran is killing us. It's killing our soul. It's chipping away at any semblance of humanity. Is it in the interests of the American people to oppose this? Of course it is. But don't mince words and present this as though what? As though there can be a position anything but comprehensive and total rejection and opposition of all the conventions and institutions that rule this country. There's two types of patriots. There are conventional, civic, and institutional patriots. Call them cocksuckers. And then there's guerrilla patriots. Guerrilla patriotism is a patriotism of the mountains. It's a patriotism of the boonies, okay, of the mountains, of the hills, of the countryside. It's an asymmetrical guerrilla patriotism. It's an unconventional patriotism. The conventional patriotism, the institutional patriotism, the civic patriotism is nothing. It's just as rotten and disgusting and corrupt as the chauvinists and imperialists that now rule us. And by the way, who's guilty of the civic and conventional patriotism? It's the CPUSA. It's the so-called Communist Party of Israel. And all manner of other fucking retards and scum that dominate the so-called international communist movement, especially the Greeks. The Greeks are the epitome of the conventional communist patriots. They get a fucking budget of, tens of millions sitting their fucking ass in the EU Parliament, paying them. The Greek and EU Parliament, they get so much fucking money from that, and they use that money to fuck with the communists throughout the entire world to affect their agenda. Welfare queens of the EU and of the Greek state. They don't get their money from the masses, I'll give you that much.